Part I Origins and Ascent Chapter 1 Rome. Before Rome, long before Rome ruled an empire, before its legions marched across continents, and before its laws shaped civilizations, the land that would become Rome was unremarkable. The Italian peninsula was a fractured landscape of hills, forests, marshes, and rival peoples. No great cities dominated it. No unified culture bound it together. If destiny favored Rome, it did so quietly. Italy lay at the crossroads of the Mediterranean, yet it was not the center of power. To the east, the Greeks built cities of marble and philosophy. To the south, Carthage commanded trade routes and naval dominance. To the north, tribal societies moved through forests and valleys with little concern for permanence. Rome was born not into greatness, but into competition. Archaeology tells us that small Latin settlements emerged along the Tiber River around the 8th century BCE. These villages clustered on defensible hills, near a ford that allowed trade to cross the river. Geography, not glory, explains Rome's survival. The Tiber protected it from coastal raids, while still allowing access to the sea. The surrounding hills provided defense without isolation. Later, Roman tradition would speak of Romulus and Remus, twin brothers raised by a wolf, founders of a city ordained by the gods. Yet myths reveal more about Roman values than Roman origins. What mattered was not divine birth, but resilience. Early Rome was shaped by hardship, scarcity, and constant threat. Among Rome's most important early influences were the Etruscans. To the north, they possessed advanced engineering, urban planning, and religious rituals. Rome adopted much from them: architecture, symbols of authority, and even elements of governance. Far from being purely Latin, early Rome was a hybrid civilization. By the 6th century BCE, Rome was no longer a loose collection of huts. It was a growing city, ruled by kings, influenced by powerful neighbors, and increasingly aware of its own identity. Yet it remained vulnerable. Nothing about Rome's early existence guaranteed survival, let alone empire. Chapter 2. From Kingdom to Republic. Rome's earliest political system was monarchy. According to tradition, 7 kings ruled the city, some benevolent, others tyrannical. Whether these figures existed exactly as described is uncertain, but the political transformation that followed them was real. In 509 BCE, Rome expelled its last king. The act was revolutionary. Romans did not merely overthrow a ruler, they rejected the idea of kingship itself. From this rejection emerged the Roman Republic. Power was no longer concentrated in one man, but distributed among institutions. 2 consuls were elected annually, each capable of vetoing the other. The Senate, composed of elite families, provided continuity and experience. Popular assemblies allowed citizens a voice, though not an equal one. This system was not democratic in the modern sense. Roman society was sharply divided between patricians and plebeians. Wealth, lineage, and status determined influence. Yet the Republic was adaptable. Over centuries, political pressure forced concessions. Laws were written down. Offices opened gradually to broader segments of society. The 12 tables codified legal rights and procedures, reducing arbitrary rule. Conflict between classes did not destroy the Republic, it strengthened it. Rome learned to channel internal tension into institutional reform. What emerged was a political culture obsessed with balance, precedent, and duty. Ambition was celebrated, but only when it served the state. Power was acceptable only when shared. This ideology would define Rome for centuries and eventually be tested beyond its limits. Chapter 3. The Conquest of Italy. Rome did not conquer Italy through overwhelming force alone. Its genius lay in integration. Defeated enemies were often transformed into allies. Citizenship, partial or full, became a tool more powerful than terror. As Samnite wars tested Rome's resolve. Fighting in rugged terrain against skilled opponents, Rome adapted. military formations evolved. Command structures improved. Defeat became instruction rather than catastrophe. Rome built roads not merely for movement, but for control. Stone arteries linked distant regions to the capital. Armies could march quickly. Trade flowed reliably. Authority followed infrastructure. By the 3rd century BCE, Rome dominated the Italian peninsula, not as a unified nation, but as a network of obligations and alliances centered on Rome itself. This system produced manpower on a scale unmatched in the ancient world. Italy had been conquered, but Rome itself was transformed. It had become a military republic, accustomed to war, expansion, and command. Chapter 4. Rome and the Mediterranean. Rome's expansion inevitably collided with Carthage, the great maritime power of the Western Mediterranean. The Punic Wars would redefine Rome's destiny. Carthage controlled trade routes, wealth, and fleets. Rome possessed endurance. The First Punic War forced Rome to build a navy from nothing. Losses were staggering. Persistence prevailed. The Second Punic War nearly destroyed Rome. Hannibal crossed the Alps, annihilated Roman armies, and ravaged Italy for years. Rome refused surrender. It raised new legions, avoided decisive defeat, and struck Carthage itself. Victory came at immense cost. By 146 BCE, Carthage was destroyed. Rome ruled the Western Mediterranean. Wealth poured in. Slaves flooded markets. Provinces replaced allies. Rome had won, but its republic was unprepared for empire. Part 2. Republican Crisis Chapter 5. Wealth and Social Collapse. Empire transformed Rome internally faster than it expanded externally. Conquest enriched elites and impoverished citizens. Small farmers were displaced by slave-worked estates. Veterans returned to find no land to claim. Urban populations swelled. Grain doles replaced opportunity. Politics became spectacle. Reformers emerged, not to destroy the republic, but to save it. The Gracchi brothers sought land redistribution. They challenged entrenched privilege. They were killed for it. Violence entered Roman politics openly. Precedent shattered restraint. Chapter 6. Generals versus. The state military reforms under Marius professionalized the legions. Soldiers became loyal to commanders, not institutions. Generals became political actors. Sulla marched on Rome itself. Proscriptions followed. Law bent to force. The Republic survived, but scarred. Power was no longer checked by tradition alone. Chapter 7. Julius Caesar and the end of the Republic. Julius Caesar embodied Rome's contradictions. Brilliant, ambitious, popular, and dangerous. His victories in Gaul brought glory and fear. When ordered to surrender command, Caesar crossed the Rubicon. Civil war followed. Caesar won. Declared dictator, he reformed Rome aggressively. He centralized power. Senators feared monarchy's return. On the Ides of March, they killed him. The Republic did not return. Part 3. The Imperial Machine. Chapter 8. Augustus and the Birth of Empire. The assassination of Julius Caesar did not restore the Roman Republic. It exposed its final weakness. In the chaos that followed, Rome descended once more into civil war. Senators who had believed they were saving liberty found themselves hunted. Power did not return to institutions. It flowed instead to armies and the men who commanded them. Among those men was a young, sickly, and seemingly unimpressive figure, Gaius Octavius, Caesar's adopted heir. Octavian did not seize power through brilliance on the battlefield alone. He mastered something far more decisive: political perception. He framed every action as a defense of tradition, even as he dismantled it. Through alliances and betrayals, Octavian eliminated his rivals. The second triumvirate, Octavian, Mark Antony, and Lepidus, was never meant to last. Lepidus was sidelined. Antony, bound to Cleopatra and the wealth of Egypt, became Octavian's perfect enemy. In 31 BCE, at the Battle of Actium, Octavian defeated Antony and Cleopatra. It was the last great civil war of the Roman Republic, and the last time Rome's fate would be decided openly between equals. Octavian did not declare himself king. He understood Rome too well for that. Instead, in 27 BCE, he announced that he was restoring the Republic. The Senate, grateful and powerless, granted him extraordinary authority. He took a new name, Augustus. The genius of Augustus lay in illusion. Republican offices still existed. Elections were still held. The Senate still debated. But all meaningful power flowed to one man. Augustus controlled the armies, the provinces, and the treasury. Rome had an emperor, but one disguised as a citizen servant. This system became known as the Principate. Augustus was princeps, the first citizen, not a monarch. In reality, the Republic was dead. In practice, Rome entered an era of unprecedented stability. Under Augustus, civil wars ended, borders stabilized, administration professionalized. Rome finally learned how to govern the empire it had conquered. The Pax Romana, the Roman peace, was born not from freedom, but from control. Chapter 9. How Rome actually worked. Rome's greatness did not rest solely on emperors or legions. It rested on systems. At its height, the Roman Empire ruled over tens of millions of people across 3 continents. This was not achieved through constant terror, but through bureaucracy, law, and logistics. The empire was divided into provinces, each governed by officials accountable to the emperor. Taxes flowed inward paid in coin, grain, and labor. Census records tracked populations. Contracts were enforced by courts that followed Roman law. Roman law was one of the empire's most powerful tools. It emphasized procedure, precedent, and citizenship. A Roman citizen, even far from Italy, possessed legal protections that bound the state itself. This created loyalty not just to an emperor, but to an idea. Infrastructure made administration possible. Roman roads spanned over 400,000 kilometers. They were built for armies, but they carried trade, communication, and culture. Milestones marked distance. Way stations fed travelers. Orders could move faster than rebellion. Aqueducts delivered water to cities on a scale unmatched in the ancient world. Sewers drained waste. Public baths became social centers. Rome did not merely conquer cities, it built them. Trade networks linked Britain to Egypt, Spain to Syria. Grain from North Africa fed Rome's population. Silk arrived from the east. Glass, wine, olive oil, and metals moved continuously. This interconnected economy depended on stability. When peace held, prosperity followed. When it failed, collapse could ripple outward with devastating speed. Rome functioned because it learned how to turn conquest into administration. Few empires in history ever managed this transformation. Chapter 10. Daily life in the Roman world. For most inhabitants of the empire, Rome was not a distant abstraction. It was daily life. Roman society was rigidly hierarchical. At the top stood senators and equestrians' wealthy elites whose status defined politics. Beneath them were ordinary citizens, then freedmen, and finally slaves. Slavery underpinned the Roman economy. Millions lived without legal personhood. Some labored in fields and mines under brutal conditions. Others worked as household servants, craftsmen, tutors, or accountants. Manumission was possible, but never guaranteed. Family life revolved around the paterfamilias, the male head of household, who wielded near absolute authority. Marriage was a social contract. Love was secondary to lineage and alliance. Women lacked political rights, but many exercised influence indirectly, especially within elite households. Education varied widely. Literacy was common in cities, rarer in rural regions. Entertainment was central to Roman culture. Gladiatorial games were not merely sport, they were ritualized violence, reinforcing ideas of power, death, and discipline. Chariot racing drew crowds larger than modern stadiums. Religion permeated life. Romans worshipped many gods, adopted foreign cults freely, and valued ritual over belief. Piety meant proper observance, not personal faith. Daily life across the empire varied dramatically, but it was unified by law, language, and custom. Rome did not erase local identities. It absorbed them. Chapter 11, Emperors, Power, and Instability. The imperial system created stability, but at a cost. Succession was never formally defined. Emperors adopted heirs, promoted sons, or trusted armies to decide. This ambiguity proved dangerous. Some emperors ruled wisely. Others ruled disastrously. Augustus was followed by Tiberius, capable but paranoid. Caligula descended into cruelty and excess. Claudius governed competently despite ridicule. Nero's reign ended in rebellion and fire. The problem was not madness alone. It was absolute power without institutional restraint. When emperors were strong, the system functioned. When they were weak, violent, or incompetent, the empire suffered. Armies became kingmakers. Loyalty shifted once again from state to individual. Assassination became a political tool. Despite this, the empire endured. The 5 good emperors of the 2nd century oversaw Rome's greatest prosperity. Borders held, trade flourished, law evolved. Yet beneath the surface, structural weaknesses persisted. Expansion slowed, costs rose. Loyalty was purchased rather than earned. The imperial machine was powerful, but it was not indestructible. Part 4, Pressures and Transformation, Chapter 12. The crisis of the 3rd century. By the middle of the 3rd century, the Roman Empire entered the most dangerous period of its existence. What followed was not a single catastrophe, but a convergence of failures, political, military, economic, and demographic, that nearly tore the empire apart. Between 235 and 284 CE, Rome experienced relentless instability. Emperors rose and fell at a staggering pace. Many ruled for months, some for mere weeks. Most met violent ends. Authority no longer flowed from legitimacy or tradition, but from whichever general could secure the loyalty of enough troops. The army, once the empire's shield, became its greatest vulnerability. Legions proclaimed their commanders emperor, marched against rivals, and abandoned frontiers in pursuit of political power. Borders weakened as internal conflict consumed Roman resources. External pressures intensified. Along the Rhine and Danube, Germanic confederations grew larger and more organized. In the east, a revitalized Persian empire under the Sassanids challenged Roman dominance, capturing territory and humiliating Roman armies. For the first time in centuries, Rome faced powerful enemies on multiple fronts simultaneously. Economic collapse followed military chaos. Trade routes fractured. Coinage was debased to pay troops, triggering inflation. Trust in currency eroded. Barter replaced money in some regions. Cities declined as rural self-sufficiency replaced urban markets. Then came plague. Epidemics swept through the empire, killing millions and crippling manpower. Farms lay abandoned. Tax revenue collapsed. Recruitment became desperate. At the height of the crisis, the empire fractured outright. Breakaway states emerged: the Gallic Empire in the west and the Palmyrene Empire in the east. Rome itself lost control of vast territories. Yet Rome did not fall. Against overwhelming odds, a series of hard, ruthless emperors restored order through force. Aurelian crushed breakaway regimes, fortified Rome's walls, and reasserted imperial authority. Survival came at a cost. Freedom, flexibility, and the old imperial order were fading. The crisis revealed a truth Rome could no longer ignore. The empire could not continue as it was. Chapter 13, Diocletian and the Reinvention of Empire. In 284 CE, a soldier emperor named Diocletian seized power. Unlike his predecessors, Diocletian did not seek to restore the past. he sought to replace it. Diocletian understood that no single ruler could effectively govern the vast Roman world. His solution was radical: the Tetrarchy. Power was divided among 4 emperors, 2 senior Augusti and 2 junior Caesars, each responsible for a region of the empire. Rome was no longer the administrative center. Power shifted closer to frontiers and armies. The empire became more militarized, more bureaucratic, and more rigid. Diocletian transformed imperial authority. The emperor was no longer first among citizens. He was a distant, divine figure, surrounded by ritual and hierarchy. Subjects prostrated themselves before him. The language of rule changed from republican illusion to open autocracy. Reforms extended to the economy. Diocletian attempted to stabilize prices and wages through edicts. Taxes were reorganized and assessed more systematically. Professions became hereditary. Social mobility declined sharply. These reforms restored order, but at the cost of freedom. The empire survived by becoming more controlled, less adaptable. Diocletian also launched the last and most severe persecution of Christians. He viewed Christianity as a threat to unity and tradition. Temples were destroyed, scriptures burned, believers imprisoned and executed. Yet the faith endured. When Diocletian abdicated voluntarily, a rare act in Roman history, he left behind a fundamentally transformed empire. The old Roman world was gone. Chapter 14. Constantine and the Christian Empire's civil war followed Diocletian's abdication. From the chaos emerged Constantine. In 312 CE, on the eve of battle near the Milvian Bridge, Constantine claimed to see a vision across in the sky and the words, "In this sign, conquer," whether belief or strategy. The moment reshaped history. Constantine defeated his rivals and became sole ruler. In 313 CE, he issued the Edict of Milan, granting religious tolerance throughout the empire. Christianity, once persecuted, was now protected. Constantine favored the Christian church with patronage, land, and authority. Bishops gained influence. Councils defined doctrine. The emperor involved himself directly in religious affairs, binding church and state together. In 330 CE, Constantine founded a new capital, Constantinople. Strategically located, fortified, and wealthy, it symbolized the empire's transformation. Power shifted eastward. Rome became a symbol rather than a center. Christianity transformed Roman culture. Traditional pagan rituals faded. Moral frameworks changed. Authority became increasingly spiritual as well as political. The Roman Empire survived, but it was no longer Roman in the old sense. It had become something new, a Christian empire, centralized, bureaucratic, and enduring. This transformation ensured survival, but not unity. Part V. Fall of the Western Empire, Chapter 15, Barbarians, Borders, and the Unraveling of the West. By the late 4th century, the Roman world was no longer unified in strength or direction. The eastern half of the empire, wealthier and more urbanized, retained administrative cohesion. The western half did not. What followed was not a sudden collapse, but a long, grinding unraveling. Pressure along Rome's borders intensified as large population movements reshaped Europe. Germanic groups, the Goths, Vandals, Franks, and others, were no longer small raiding parties. They were entire peoples on the move, driven by climate stress, demographic growth, and, most decisively, the arrival of the Huns from the Eurasian Pay. In 376 CE, tens of thousands of Goths sought refuge within Roman territory, fleeing Hunnic violence. Rome allowed them to cross the Danube, but failed to manage their settlement. Corruption, mistreatment, and starvation turned refugees into rebels. In 378 CE, the Roman army confronted the Goths near Adrianople. The result was catastrophic. Emperor Valens was killed. A Roman field army was annihilated. For the first time in centuries, a Roman emperor had fallen in battle against a barbarian force. Adrianople shattered the myth of Roman invincibility. It also marked a turning point in military policy. Rome increasingly relied on foederati barbarian groups settled within the empire in exchange for military service. These forces fought for Rome, but not as Romans. The western provinces, already economically weakened, struggled to maintain armies, infrastructure, and administration. Britain was abandoned, Gaul fractured. Spain slipped from imperial control. In 410 CE, the unthinkable happened. The city of Rome was sacked by the Visigoths under Alaric. Though the city had lost political importance, its symbolic weight was immense. The Eternal City had been violated. More sacks followed. The Vandals looted Rome in 455 CE. Authority eroded further with each blow. Rome still existed, but it no longer commanded. Chapter 16. The last emperors of the West. In the final decades of the Western Roman Empire, emperors ruled in name only. Real power lay with generals, many of them of barbarian origin, who commanded what remained of Rome's armies. The imperial court moved repeatedly, seeking safety behind walls rather than authority over provinces. Ravenna, marsh-protected and isolated, became the western capital, a symbol of retreat. Emperors were elevated and discarded at will. Some were children, others were puppets. None possessed the resources or legitimacy to restore the empire. One by one, provinces fell under the control of successor kingdoms. The Visigoths ruled Gaul and Spain. The Vandals dominated North Africa, cutting off Rome's grain supply. The Franks expanded in the north. Italy itself became a battleground of competing warlords. In 476 CE, a Germanic commander named Odoacer opposed the last Western Roman emperor, Romulus Augustus. No grand battle marked the end. No declaration announced Rome's fall. Odoacer sent the imperial insignia to Constantinople and ruled Italy in the name of the Eastern Emperor. The Western Roman Empire simply ceased to exist as a political entity. Few at the time understood the moment's significance. Life continued. Cities endured. Laws remained in use. But the imperial framework that had bound the West together for centuries was gone. Rome had fallen not with a crash, but with exhaustion. Chapter 17. Did Rome really fall? To speak of Rome's fall is both accurate and misleading. The Western Roman Empire collapsed because it could no longer sustain the institutions that defined it. Economic contraction, demographic decline, military fragmentation, and political paralysis combined to break imperial authority. But Rome did not vanish. In the East, the Roman Empire endured for nearly 1,000 more years. Constantinople thrived as a center of wealth, culture, and power. Its people called themselves Romans. Its emperors ruled by Roman law. In the West, Roman traditions survived within new kingdoms. Latin remained the language of administration. Roman law shaped medieval legal systems. The Church preserved Roman organization, literacy, and memory. What died was not civilization, but centralized control. Rome did not fall in a single moment. It transformed, fractured, and evolved into something else. The ancient world ended, and the medieval world began not overnight, but through centuries of change. The Roman Empire was not destroyed by barbarians alone. It was undone by its own success, stretched beyond the limits of adaptation. Epilogue: Rome's legacy roams gone, but it is everywhere. No empire is shaped from one world more quietly or more completely. Long after its emperors vanished and its legions disbanded, Rome continued to influence how societies governed, how laws are made, and how power is understood. Roman law became the foundation of legal systems across Europe and beyond. Concepts such as citizenship, contracts, property rights, and due process did not disappear with the empire. They were preserved, adapted, and embedded into future civilizations. Even today, modern legal codes carry Roman logic in their structure. structure and assumptions. Political institutions also bear Rome's imprint. Senates, republics, and constitutions echo Roman experiments in governance, both their strength and their failures. Rome demonstrated the power of shared institutions, but also the danger of concentrating authority without accountability. Rome's military legacy is equally enduring. Professional armies, standardized training, logistics, and discipline are refined under Roman command. Roads built for legions became arteries of commerce and communication. Strategy, not just strength, defined Roman dominance. Culturally, Rome transmitted the ancient to the future. Through the preservation of Greek knowledge, the spread of Latin, and the organization of the Christian Church, Rome ensured continuity in a time of fragmentation. Medieval Europe did not rise from chaos alone. It inherited Rome's frameworks. Yet Rome's most important legacy may be its cautionary lessons. Rome fell not because of one enemy, one emperor, or one event, but because of accumulated strain. Economic inequality, political paralysis, reliance on force over reform, and the erosion of civic responsibility weakened the system from within. External threats succeeded only after internal cohesion failed. Rome teaches that power without adaptability cannot endure, that stability achieved through control may preserve order, but at the cost of resilience, and that civilizations, like empires, must constantly renegotiate the balance between authority and participation. Rome did not fall in a day. It was not destroyed by accident. It was shaped by human decisions, brilliant and flawed alike. In understanding Rome, we do not merely study the past. We examine ourselves